starting our school board meeting at 5 o'clock. It's going to be, we're going to start late. I don't know what time that will be at this point in time. We'll know in a few minutes. But a few comments about BridgePrep. Recently, a couple of our board members received a letter from Mr. Arza related to the BridgePrep contract, charter contract. And I want to offer these comments. I thought that letter was misguided, was terribly inappropriate, ill-conceived, ill-advised, and terribly unfortunate. It seemed to infer that some of our board members, at least, were not conducting themselves consistent with their constitutional responsibilities. And I take great exception to that. We may disagree as a board. Sometimes we disagree with each other strenuously. But there's no question in my mind that every board member here is doing what they believe they need to do and is voting their conscience as relates to their constituencies and to the students of this school district. So I take great exception to that, and I'm going to make a public appeal to Mr. Arza to apologize to those board members. I think, again, that was ill-advised, completely inappropriate. Having said that, when we voted on this issue at the last meeting, I did not share my thoughts about why I voted for the contract, and I'd like to share those at this time. It's traditional that public facilities are funded with public dollars, and those remain in the public venue. They belong to the school district, and at some point in time, the school district may dispose of them, may give them to another governmental entity or sell them and reinvest that money in facilities. What we have now is a little different. We have a situation now where public funds are ostensibly going into the coffers of the private sector. And I think there are many who find that distasteful and objectionable and a lot of other things. But that's not a reflection of BridgePrep, in my opinion. I think that's a reflection of our state legislature. I think BridgePrep is just doing what any other charter school district would do under the law. So I don't hold that against them. I think the concern here is that, based on the contract they have written, and Ms. Bridges may have some comments about this. Based on the contract we currently have with them, if this goes to appeal and we lose, in my opinion, as Ms. Fields was saying, we lose the ability to influence that contract. We lose the ability, in my opinion, to influence where they're going to build. We lose the ability to influence the students that they take in. And I think from my perspective, I would rather us have that influence and have that control, as opposed to taking a chance on losing that. We had some folks who were concerned that about what they were doing in that area, and I agree completely. I agree with our teacher, with Ms. Fortney. We can provide those services, and we should, if we had the resources to do so. The problem is we simply don't have the resources to do so, and that's why I think that was one of the reasons that I voted for that particular contract. Even after our new schools are built in the northeast part of the county, we're still going to be overcrowded and busting at the seams. And I think any help we can get for our students out there and for our staff in that part of the county we should be doing. So with that said, there's been a lot of discussion. There's some discussion in the paper about a reconsideration vote. That is not a possibility. That would have had to take place at the original meeting. I want to make that clear. It's a technicality. I don't want at some point in time, regardless of what happens here, for our school district to be held up on some technicality. There cannot be a reconsideration vote. There, however, can be a renewal vote. And that renewal vote motion can be brought forward by any school board member. The school board chair has the authority to disregard or to not allow a motion to move forward if it's frivolous or irrelevant or generally not consistent with what would be the good business of the school district. And so a vote already taken, in my opinion, if it came before the board a second time, would be frivolous and irrelevant. However, we have some extenuating circumstances here. It was a tie vote, and one of our board members was not able to be here that evening, was not able to participate. That, in my opinion, is an extenuating circumstance. So, given that, if any board member would like to make the motion to renew the superintendent's recommendation, and I will only consider that particular motion to renew the superintendent's recommendation at this evening's meeting, I will entertain that motion and entertain a second and additional comments and a vote on that. Yes, sir.
Should that happen, I would ask that we postpone that vote until the next regular meeting, which would allow the public that develops an interest in this to be able to comment on it. I think this wasn't on the agenda. Presumably a month won't matter. When is our next meeting? June something, June 20th, something like that.
But it was on the last meeting and
It was on the
nobody
last
came and
meeting.
spoke.
Right.
Yeah,
But a lot's
'Cause they
happened.
didn't know.
A lot's happened since then.
Procedurally, there's an issue, and that is that under the law, the district sends out a denial letter within 10 days after the initial vote, which we did, and their clock runs from that day, and they have 30 days from that day to file their appeal, which they've indicated that they will. So if it were to be delayed, it's likely that we will be into the appellate process by that time. Of course, if the board at that time voted to approve it, they can withdraw their appeal. Presumably they would, I don't know. But right now, the time clock's running, and it will run before the next board meeting. They would have to file their brief and incur those attorney fees and expenses.
Yes, Ms. Miller.
I have comment as a board member that was targeted by one of those letters. What you're saying is true. We desperately need help in the Northeast area. We also are responsible for the quality of help that we're giving them. And I've been contacted by people in South Florida who are affected by these schools, and I know that they have great performance records. Having a board made up of people who do not live in Polk County, who all meet together once with they're the same board members that share all the different schools. I cannot imagine. You love my cold today because it's hard to get out. I cannot imagine in Polk County's best interest allowing people that do not live here make decisions and have input on what the students' services will look like, how they'll be performed. And with the example of behavior that was written with those letters, I can only assume that the rest of that establishment runs like that. And I cannot put I would never back. I have never seen this in another, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, watching the board meetings for years. I have never seen another for-profit charter, they're all nonprofit. Corporate charter behave like that, and I will not put my constituents in the Northeast area subjected to that kind of management. It makes me very leery of what they were doing, and I've had nothing but response positively for my vote, especially for people that live in Boca and South Florida who work with this school. I would feel differently if this was another local charter with that. And if your application reads one thing and you promise to do something else and you behave with letters that were sent to me and other board members, I cannot imagine I could ever hold you to your word because it wasn't professional and it's not trustworthy. And so that's my input for this corporate charter.
Ms. Reynolds, did you have some comments?
I just had a question for Wes about the appeals process. It changed recently that who pays for the appeals process now?
I don't believe that the appeals process has changed.
Okay.
I've had that conversation with some of their representatives who wanted to talk about the attorney fees. The statute still reads that if there is a contract dispute that is heard by an administrative law judge from the Division of Administrative Hearings, that the administrative law judge has the authority to award attorney fees. There is no provision similar to that in the statute having to do with the appeals.
Okay.
There is no administrative law judge involved. It goes to the Charter Appeals Commission and then is decided by the State Board of Education based on a recommendation brought to them by the commissioner.
Sweetie?
Well, as the recipient of the other letter, I found, I felt very threatened by it, to be quite honest, and, I don't know anybody in Boca. But, I know that the folks in Polk County, because I went ahead and I just put it on Facebook because I felt like being open would probably be the safest thing for Sarah Fortney. And, that's how, unnerved I was, plus some other things that happened after that board meeting, like my house being cased by a strange SUV. But these are all letters from folks that have yes. These are all letters from folks that supported my vote. So, and they took great time to reiterate the reason I got 61%. Thank you.
I mean,
Yes,
I
yes,
think it'd be very disrespectful to the public to have this vote tonight, and not give anybody a chance to speak to us directly about it. You know, you can vote how you want, obviously, but I would certainly recommend that if someone's gonna raise that tonight, that we then, how would I go about pushing it? Like if someone raises that vote tonight, procedurally, what can I do? Is there a
I think,
tabling process? How does that all work?
I think you can, if someone raises it tonight, you can, a member can ask to lay it on the table. I think that requires a second and a vote to put it on the table. If you have, you can certainly have a vote tonight. Robert specifically allows it. You can have the vote tonight and live or die with it. If it's laid on the table or postponed, or nobody, there's a discussion and the decision is made to put it off till the next meeting, then I think the applicant, to the extent that they're serious about appealing, they would have to go ahead and do what they're gonna do. And once again, if it came up at the next board meeting, and if the board at that time approved the application, then, you know, up to them whether to proceed or just to take the, you know, smart money is at that point you go negotiate a contract.
But what does lay it on the table mean? Is that postponed?
Laying something on the table means that it is, action on it is postponed to another time. It is not something that school boards do very frequently. It's a parliamentary technique that is more typical of a large parliamentary body. But I'll be happy to look at what Roberts says for how small bodies can use it.
Well, this is not something that has happened very frequently.
No, it is
so,
not.
So,
I'd be happy to.
I mean, look, however we do it, proceed procedurally. If someone raises that tonight, I'm going to urge that we put that vote off until the next regular meeting.
Yeah, again, procedurally, if a board member wishes to make that motion and we have a second, then we cannot ignore that this evening. And a board member may choose to wait, given your suggestion, that's their prerogative. And it's your prerogative then to ask to make the motion that be laid aside, and then we can proceed from there. That's what.
I wanted to say that after all of this, I went right to Superintendent Byrd, and she sat with me for, I don't know, 30 minutes, Superintendent Byrd, and I took her a copy of that letter, which she had not seen. And she explained her position on moving it to contract, which I apologize as a board member, I did not understand that, but again, I did not trust them either. Like I trusted our acceleration office, 11-1 vote on that committee, and then the folks that actually live in that area that I have received numerous communications from. So I just wanted to thank Superintendent Byrd for listening to me be scared, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. So, how important is the executive session?